Let's start this thing up. You talked about the movie with your group. Let's make a list of issues which contributed to the conflict. Please raise your hand, and our comparable people who have microphones will bring you the mic. Let's start off. What's the one thing, please? Each person give us one thing. Yes.
So we said that inequity was one thing that led to the conflict in this situation, and that showed up in various forms such as lack of pay, the same pay rate for people of color versus their white counterparts, and they did not begin with uniforms.
Okay, fair enough. All right, thank you. Someone else, yes. What are some things that contribute to this conflict?
One of the things that we thought attributed to the conflict was self-worth due to the unequal pay and fairness.
Okay, someone else? Right here.
So the issues that contributed to the conflict, lack of trust.
Okay, talk about that lack of trust piece, please.
Well, they were told when they joined the Army that they would be receiving equal pay. Then come to find out that they would be receiving $3 less because they're colored.
Okay, fair enough. Come on, come on, other tables. What do you got? Okay.
So we put down lack of respect, and again, it was because they were not treated with the same level of respect as their white counterparts.
Okay, all right, other things. Come on, we got one back
Another
here.
issue that we had written down was that just recognizing the problem as it was happening was difficult for some of the folks in the regiment, and so that was a challenge. In addition to all the other things that y'all said, we had that as one more.
Got one, come on.
I think something as portrayed by Morgan Freeman's character was acquiescence. It just the way it is, we got to put up with it.
Okay, fair enough. Other things, we got some good. Come on, we got. So, which ones have not been said, or the other things that have not been said? Okay, come on. Hold on a second, please.
We have exclusion and unfairness.
Okay, so we're going to shift gears. Our next thing we're going to shift to, how are these issues addressed? Come on, how are these issues addressed? Did he address them all? Were they addressed? Folks, y'all did do some table work before you left, right? Okay, how are these issues addressed? Come on. Oh, who's new? Raise your hand if you're new. Oh, you folks don't know. Okay. We have a no cell phone, no computer thing in here unless you're looking at slides, okay? So please put all that stuff away. If you want to use your cell phone, you can go outside and text till your thumbs fall off. We will not be offended, but we're going to protect our learning environment in here, okay? So please put those things away and just use it for the slides, okay? So we just watched a movie clip, and I thought we was only have one or two new people. And it's the movie from Glory. It's a scene in which the folks did not, the African-American soldiers did not receive the same pay that the white soldiers did. And Colonel Shaw in the end, I'll let them tell you. I'll set it up. Come on. Go ahead, sir.
What's the question?
Okay, the question is, how was these issues resolved?
Well, how the issues were resolved. Well, one, Matthew Broderick's character, Colonel Shaw, decided that they were not going to accept anyone would accept pay. So what it enabled the authority figure in that scene to come into play with the team, with the rest of the team, so that they would all be on the same level.
Okay, good stuff. We got one right here, somebody? Okay.
They also, one of the ways that it was addressed was through empathy and compassion. By them not taking the pay, they showed that for the rest of their battalion.
Okay. All right. Somebody want to give us a big summation? Yeah, there we go. Come on. And I see, wait, hold on, listen. I've been watching too, and these gentlemen have been watching. Next time you go to tables, people who have not said anything, get in the microphone. We good, guys? All right, let's go.
One of the issues seems like it's going to be addressed later because they're tearing up the checks. So that means that we're not going to tolerate it. But I believe Colonel Shaw stated as he first received the checks that he was going to fight this through some protocol.
He did. I'm glad you brought that up. But they didn't see that, did they?
No.
Right? So this is a bunch of conflicts is what I'm trying to get y'all to dig out of this thing. There's a lot of other little things going behind the scenes. Are there other things, observations before we go to the last part that you notice? Other conflicts? Yes.
Well, they were never recognized as part of the Army, so they were all wearing their own clothes. And when they were given the uniforms, that symbolized that they were being, let in and being included.
Good stuff. Other things, other insights? Going once, going twice. All right, well, for sake of time, I'll throw a couple other things out for you all to consider. Okay, so in the military, is anybody in the military in here? Any military, ex-military people in here? None? Okay, well, it's a very hierarchical type of system, and it's chain of command, and you're supposed to follow chain of command. So if someone above you, as far as rank, tells you something, you're supposed to do it, and if you have a problem, you go to them. Very rarely do you go out, circumvent those the chain of command, okay? And so when we're talking here, Shaw, think about it, as the leader, he took it on the chin. He said, we'll protest this through the War Department, but his orders were to still give the message out, right? So he had to still give the message out. Now imagine the level of conflict that caused. These guys already didn't have uniforms, right? And I don't know who's seen the movie, but they already didn't have uniforms. A lot of other things had happened. So now he's got to get there and say that. So you saw how it went down. Now Denzel, what role did Denzel play? Can someone tell us that? What role did Denzel play? Agitator, okay. You remember the story I read about the person who's the devil's advocate, right? And they called him a Confederate in that. Now it's funny that he was being a Confederate, but he had on blue in that situation, right? Okay, so he gets things stirred up. When Shaw shoots the gun, think about how much the tension there. His next movement is critical, is it not? All right. So he decides that no one's going to get paid. It ends well, but think about this. Then the uniforms come. What if the uniforms had come before they tore up their checks? Didn't that potentially add insult to injury? You see where I'm going with this? And then the last scene, and then we're going to talk about you guys' words. The last scene, they're in a parade. If you were sitting in the parade watching it, did you know they had those conflicts before? You think the people knew? So all that stuff was necessary, was it not, to get them to that point? They look like one happy unit, right? Going to go fight. Imagine all the things that got them there. Look at all the conflicts that happened for them to get to the fighting unit that they are, right? It's a bunch of stuff that happens. And so my point to you is think about how deeply conflict is enrooted in organizations and how necessary it is, okay? Now, here's the big showcase showdown, as one of my announcers used to do on a game show. What we're gonna do now, we're gonna go to each table and we're gonna ask you, did you see your words at play? And if so, tell us the words you created and tell us how you saw them at play. So who has not spoken this? Mike, go, my main man, Mike. Hey, this is this guy right here. I know him, been knowing him for years. Seriously, been knowing him for years. Mike, you're up, brother.
What were our words again? Okay. Well, collaboration, conversation, and caring. The one that I saw the most was caring.
Okay.
Denzel Washington obviously
hold on a
cared.
second, Mike. Hold on. Okay, hold on. All right, folks, remember talking stickers in effect, please. Yes, sir.
So, caring was one of our words, and that's the one I saw the most in that. Denzel Washington obviously cared, but Matthew Broderick's character, the Colonel, also showed his caring. But I think the key, and you pointed out, is he showed it. He cared, but he let everybody know, and that kind of led to some of the other words that we've heard from the other tables. So with that, I'll hand back the mic.
Okay, does anyone else want to add from this table about where these words fit in? Because let me stop for a second. I'm sorry. For 1 second. What we're doing, y'all, you all set this framework up. These aren't my words, they're yours. We're simply going and taking various scenes and case studies, because I asked you, if you use these words, remember, in a conflict, what would happen? And we pretty much agreed it would be a more positive outcome. So all we're doing is taking a case study from the word you all made and see if it applies. We'll put it through the test. Yes, sir.
So on the communication or conversation aspect, one of the difficulties for Matthew Broderick's characters was that he couldn't communicate the original conversation that he about the protocols that he was to follow to the troops, because you don't complain down, you complain up. And that was a huge problem. And I'm sure we've all dealt with situations where we want to tell people what we are planning or trying to do, but it's just impossible. You can't. You would cause more problems, more conflict. So that was a huge issue for him that he was dealing with.
Good stuff, y'all. Does that complete him? Let's give him a hand. I like that. Now we're at the O table. Good job, y'all. Good job. Okay,
Our words were originality, outstanding, and openness. I think the other guys felt open to speak up after Denzel started speaking up, so that would apply to that word.
It's an outstanding outcome due to the fact that everybody, the camaraderie that was created because of the conflict resolution that was created by everybody.
Okay. All right. The other words?
Our third word, originality, originality in there. Originality to get everyone's attention with shooting the gun in the air.
That was huge. Now, that's a lot of originality. Could you imagine what would have happened if he shot that gun and they took it the wrong way? But go ahead.
Yeah. Originality for the soldiers to come over and to pass along these wrapped bundles of uniforms to the other soldiers. That was another sense of originality, just the symbolism of soldiers coming over to the African Americans and passing over this brand new bundle of here's your uniform. So, our words.
Well, y'all, let's give him a hand. All right. With the end table.
Hi, our word are negotiate, navigate, and necessary. At first, he wanted, Matthew Broderick wanted to, he talked about running it up the flagpole for the equal pay.
Good.
And that is when he would negotiate. And then he had to do what was necessary to be the leader and the role model for his group. And he navigated the situation to bond everyone together, and they were all united with their uniforms and in the parade.
Done and think. Now, these are y'all's words. Good job. Give him a hand. Okay. I think we're with F now, the F group.
We focused on the fairness and the facts and the findings, and it all relates to what everyone else has said, but the fairness comes back to when Colonel Shaw, told everyone that no one would be paid. We would not accept that. So that was huge in bringing the troops together. And then the facts were, by doing that, the soldiers were initially told that they were going to receive more pay. And so when he told them that they weren't, and then he did that action of not taking the pay that no one in that regiment would, that was huge. And I just think that really set the tone.
I like it. Good stuff. Let's get him a hand. Okay, L. This L, right?
Yes.
Yeah, good, because I don't think good. Good job. Good job. And be looking for the person over here who's going to speak. Good job. Okay, what do we got?
So obviously in the beginning when he announced it that they were getting lower pay, he listened. He didn't really just cut off Denzel's character right away and say, don't talk to anybody else about it. And then obviously he showed his love and empathy for his team by saying that they would not take any pay. And it kind of ended with that laughter of everyone becoming that team, getting their uniforms and having that good kind of cheer at the end.
I like it. Good stuff. Let's give him a hand. Okay, we're at I, the I table.
Our words were ideas, intuition, and innovation, and we kind of tied those to a lot of the things that the other people are saying so far, looking at how Denzel used the protest to kind of innovate some thinking outside of the box, also with ideas with Colonel Shaw's character going ahead and shooting the gun, and as well as then tearing up his paycheck. So that's what we went with.
All right, let's give him a hand. Folks, I was struggling with this. Y'all got to remind us of your words. I was struggling. So just tell us your words, please, which I believe was consensus, compassion, and collaboration. Is that right? All right. That mic looks like it's a hot potato. Everybody's passing around. Tell you what, you got, who has it? Okay, I'll tell you what, hey, pass it this way. Pass this way. I don't remember you saying too much, sir. I don't remember this man saying too much. Okay, let's go.
All right, we won't repeat what table one said about collaboration, but once the group did decide to do the same thing, then they were on one accord there. Our second word was compassion. and Colonel Shaw had compassion for the troops and made the right decision. And the third one was consensus. As you said at the end, the resolution was one in which everyone agreed, but as they marched up the street, no one knew that their conflict had resolved in a way that brought consensus.
All right, well done, sir. That wasn't that bad, was it? Give me a hand. All right, T group. Oh, there we go. Good job, sir. I'm glad you stepped. Good job, sir. Come on, what you got?
Our three words were transparency, trust, and teachable moment. And so he was transparent in the fact that he was saying that the colored soldiers were going to get less pay, and he had to say that openly, and exactly how much less that they were going to get paid. That started to build the trust with his men, and he also could use that as a teachable moment that he and his officers were going to be with his unit.
Good job. Let's give him a hand. Okay, folks, I'm not going to belabor the point. You created these words this morning. You see that they are effective strategies in using in resolving conflict or making conflict better or having better outcomes to conflict, okay? That's one case study. Now we're going to go a little further. All right. Let me see. Can you see that, ma'am? You mind reading that for us?
The challenge becomes promoting a healthy amount of conflict among teams without destroying their ability to work together.
Is that not it? Is that not it? Right? Let's look at the Shaw situation. Look at the other situation. I think she's still here. It says she brainstorms and causes. Were you still here? You brainstorm? Okay, remember the lady earlier that said she has her teams to brainstorm and that type of thing? Because here's what you're trying to do. Who would think that you need to promote conflict? Sounds crazy, right? But you do to get these ideas out, but you have to do it in a way, right, that's healthy and you don't destroy their ability to work together. All right, so ultimately we can look at this, right? Conflict's not always bad, is it? Folks, y'all are supposed to say no. Okay. Conflict is not always a contest, right? All right, y'all caught on quick. Conflict can be beneficial, right? Absolutely. Hey, and ultimately, conflict is necessary to be successful. All right, now we're going to shift gears in a second, but I'm going to try something before we shift gears. Let's see what we got. I want people at the tables, and y'all can observe. Back row, you get to observe this. Find a partner. Does everyone have a partner at the table? If you don't have a partner, you can observe. So everybody find a partner. Everybody got a partner? Okay, if you don't, you can observe. It's cool. Everybody have a partner? Okay, let me show you the rules of engagement. Here's the rule. Here are the rules of engagement. Folks, hey, folks, here are the rules of engagement. If you don't mind, Nicole, would you slide up a little bit, please? Okay, Nicole and I are going to, okay, I feel a little tension now. Okay. All right, Nicole and I, every time my hand goes down, Nicole gets a point. Every time Nicole's hand goes down, I get a point, okay? So thank you so much, Nicole. Y'all give Nicole a hand for that demonstration. Okay, does everyone have a partner? Okay, are you all ready? Everybody get your partner, get your position, assume position. If there are questions, assume the position. Assume position, assume position. Okay. Okay. All right, okay, folks, hey. Okay, folks, are there questions about this? Okay, y'all watch, it's gonna be a thrill, okay? You ready? Go. Go. Okay, time. I don't want anybody to get hurt. Time. Okay. I'll come to y'all in a minute, okay? Just be cool. All right, so how many folks got at least 10 points? Okay, they did, okay. How many folks got about 8 points? Anybody get 8 points? 7? Okay, so I'm a little confused. Why didn't other people get points? What happened? Now, this microphone, guys, raise your hand and tell us why it happened. Why didn't you get any points is the question. Come on, y'all that didn't get points. Come on, tell us why you didn't get points. Okay, come on. Let's start it. Come on, go ahead.
We discussed and had disagreements about what we were supposed to be doing. So we were talking more about that than actually getting quit.
All right, but I asked, okay, true enough, I'll let that go. But to full disclosure, I said, are there any questions? I made a demonstration. I did ask. Okay, what's the, come on.
We were debating which of the three of us would be a pair. So by the time we decided, it was over.
Okay, fair enough. Other folks, come on, we got somebody up here and somebody, okay, go ahead, and then we got two up here. Come on.
I don't think we were really trying our hardest because I think he could have slammed my arm down.
Okay.
But he didn't.
All right, so how many points did y'all get? Okay, 0, okay.
There wasn't any competition until there was some resistance.
Okay.
As long as I didn't resist, she was doing well, but I did a little, I mean, not even a lot. And she just threw my hand down.
Okay. All right. Hey, no, matter of fact, pass it. No, hold up, Robert, pass it to her because I don't remember her saying anything yet. Come on.
Part of it is, you know, it's like, if you want to avoid the conflict, you don't want to do anything because I didn't want to hurt her. So it's like, but we could have just decided that we were just going to go back and forth and rack
imagine
the
that.
points. But
Okay. Did someone else have their hand up over here? Yes.
I think we just didn't see the point, and so we just sat there and did nothing.
All right. Yeah, come on.
We jumped right in, and I thought it was going to be very easy. She is a heck of a fighter.
Okay. All right, so time out for a second. Let's debrief this thing, right? Folks in the back, what did I tell? What was their instructions? What were they supposed to do? What were they supposed to do? Somebody tell us what the instructions were. What were they supposed to do?
You just held her hand and you said either way, whichever way, you got a point each time.
But what did I say before that?
Oh, I don't know.
Say it. Give her.
Find a partner.
She say that one more time.
Find a partner.
I told you find a partner. You're right. I never told you arm wrestle, right? What does partner mean, folks? Wait. I'm sorry. What does it mean? Oh, it means to work together. If you're a partner and you work for the same organization, maybe it seems you should work together. Now, Robert, go listen to these folks right here. How many points did y'all get? And tell us how you did that, please. Tell us how you did it.
Oh, well, I can't take the credit because she was following the instructions. I was just along for the ride. She interpreted, she heard what you said about find a partner and work together.
Okay, so folks, the thing is to find a partner. You work with the people you work with. Aren't they your partners? Are they your enemies? I felt some resistance, so I knew this. She slammed it. This is a heck of a fighter. Wait, I said find a partner. And we talked about this all morning about your interpretation of conflict, and we're supposed to be trying to erase that. I don't think we're there yet.
I guess when I was looking at this, doing an arm wrestling match, it's one side wins. It's a binary thing. Here I was looking, well, why does either of us have to win? We can just work together and have a tension and move together without having anyone be a winner or a loser.
That's very true, but they both could have won, right? They could have gotten more points. That's a standstill strategy, which is okay, but they could have gotten a lot of points, right? But it comes down to working together because I said partner. It underscores again that I talked about this morning that people see any situation like conflict like it's something negative, and the medieval times fight, there has to be a winner, there has to be a loser. Folks, we got to get rid of that to move forward. We've got to get rid of that to move forward, okay? And we talked about, y'all were saying some great stuff, caring and love and Guys, did y'all see a lot of caring and love? Okay, me neither. I didn't either. Okay, it underscores a point, folks, okay? Because what happens with these conflicts is your mental, the way you see it is how you're gonna react, okay? So you've gotta fight that part first. That's why we use these words, okay? All right, that was fun. I'm glad nobody got injured. I'm always worried about that one because there's always gonna be some workers' comp claim and all that, and I don't need that. All right, so let's shift gears. So how do we manage these conflicts? First, you got to accurately diagnose the type of conflict it is. Now we're moving. You see where we just shifted? Now we're gonna start going a little deeper. What type of conflict is this, right? All right, select appropriate management strategy. Once I recognize what type of conflict this is, now what do I do about it? What do I do about it? And then settle the interpersonal disputes effectively so that the underlying problems are resolved and the relationship between disputants is not damaged. Did this not happen in the glory clip? Folks? Okay, everybody's looking at me like I'm talking Klingon. Folks, did this right here not happen in the glory clip, the clip of glory? Okay. So we're still trying to work with these conflicts in the right way. So now I've got a question. And my microphone guys, I know y'all are ready. Okay. Let me see how I can ask this question. These are two types of conflict, okay? Now, let me say it twice so this will be real clear as I can make it. Substantive conflict deals with goals, priorities, and task accomplishment. And interpersonal conflict is personality clashes, arguments, and enemies. Let me see a show of hands. Which one are they the same, or is one better than the other? If you think they're the same, raise your hand, please. Okay. Is one better than the other? Raise your hand. Okay. All right. How many folks think substantive conflict is better? Okay. Put your hands down. How many people think interpersonal conflict is better? All right. Now, this is the part where the guys are going to roll with the microphones because you answer these questions. I want to know why. Why are you saying this is better than that? Let's start. Somebody kick it off, please. Yep. There we go. He's up. He's ready too.
I think substantive conflict is better or easier to address because it's more data driven. You can take some of the emotion out of it, as opposed to, I don't like you for whatever reasons. We have conflicts going back for whatever reason. You got a promotion I didn't get. So substantive, it's more factual in my universe.
Okay, I like it. So you had somebody over here?
I think that the substantive gets to the root of why we're gathered together so that we can resolve whatever issues, and there are competing interests around the table. So that's why, and that's the whole purpose of gathering. I see the interpersonal conflict as the people who, it's usually the same person who's going to be wants to throw a wrench in the works and not be the person who wants to resolve things. That's just their role is this curmudgeon, and it's not the devil's advocate role. It's a person who just doesn't want to change, which we have a lot of that.
Oh, wow. Okay, good honesty. I like it. Okay, you have one over here, Robert?
She's got her hand up, so we're going here.
Okay. Hey, you start. Come on, there we go.
I kind of think the same that everybody else is saying. The substantive, it seems like you can work things out. They're goal-driven. There's a conflict that you can resolve in your workflow, your work product, something that can be accomplished to resolve the conflict. Interpersonal, that's when it gets really tricky because you have to deal with people's feelings and trying to get them overcome hurdles, and it's not always an easy thing to do.
I like it. All right, come on.
I see interpersonal conflict as the drama that we were talking about in session 1. And the drama is less productive. You're not really going to get anything substantive, and that's why it's called substantive conflict. You're not going to get anything meaningful out of it other than people's feelings getting hurt or enemies and clashes. And I liked what she said about the fact that it's not the argument, it's not the Confederate person in the room, it's not the devil's advocate. They're the pot stirrer. They're the ones that are just causing trouble to cause trouble.
I like it. Come on.
I think substantive is more about driving the team forward and also improving performance goals. I think it's performance related instead of individual related. Whenever you talk about substantive conflict, the priorities are set, and oftentimes, we tell each other, I don't care if I like you or not, the goal is for this to be accomplished. So it takes that personal part out of the interpersonal conflict and makes it a group activity. It brings people together, pushes them to higher performance levels.
Well said. Okay, other insights on this. You all are, yes, come on, she's on fire, come on.
I just don't think you can get to the substantive until you address the interpersonal.
Okay.
It just seems like that's the big roadblock there.
Okay, so here's the deal. You all are right. Here's how it works, okay? And I'm gonna get off the script for a second. I'll get back on the slides in a second. So when you're substantive conflict, think about it. You're talking about goals, priorities, and task accomplishments. And I think she's back now. You were talking about you have your team's brainstorm, right? Remember? Earlier today, okay, yeah, you have your team's brainstorm. Hold on just one second, hold on. So you're having brainstorm, right? You're right. Tell us why you do that again, please.
About the brainstorming?
Yes.
Brainstorming is everybody having the same end goal and just trying to figure out how we're going to get there, and having the ability to throw out different ideas, good or bad, and not having judgment in that conversation.
Well done. So here's how we're looking at this. Goals, priorities, tasks, accomplishment. That's why you're at work, to reach the goals of the organization. That's what you're supposed to be talking about. Priorities, that's what you're supposed to be talking about. That's what belongs at work. And if you have a good, healthy debate or conflict about the best way to do that, that's fantastic for the organization, is it not? Because maybe my idea sucks. Maybe her idea is great. Maybe her idea is all right. Maybe hers is good. And if we keep doing that, we get the best way to do what we're supposed to be doing, which is reaching the goals of the organization. Does that make sense, folks? This second one doesn't even belong here. Do you know why the second one's up here? It was because we have people that come to work. It's a personal thing, right? It's how people are wired. This doesn't belong. This is the only reason we have the handbook about code of conduct and all that, because of this stuff, right? This kills an organization. Personality clashes is hard to get by that, right? People not liking each other. Look at this word, enemies. Before I asked you to grab a partner, right? And people were kind of struggling with that. But can you imagine having enemies at work? I know it happens. I'm naive, but think about what that really does to the organization. How can that be? You see how it makes the organization kind of off kilter? You've got enemies on your team, right? So this stuff doesn't even belong here. It kills organizations, okay? This is good. Now, I'm gonna throw one more tidbit out, because I might as well. So a lot of times I get the question about, well, what are you supposed to do about this, blah, blah, blah. Well, we'd need another year to really accurately address this, right? But here's the big picture. The big picture is when this happens, to the best of your ability, try to redirect it up here. Does that make sense? When this happens, and like I said, we're not gonna go into a thesis about all this, but when it happens, try to redirect. Well, let's say someone doesn't like someone else. I'm just making a crazy example. Well, what does that have to do with accomplishing the goals and priorities of the organization? When people come at you with the personal stuff, ask them, how does it relate back to what we're really supposed to be working on, which is up here? Does that make sense, folks? Okay, now there are ways to do that, right? And it's not as simple as I said, but you do need to redirect them to what they're supposed to be working on. Make sense? Okay, all right. All right, so substantive conflict can enhance both individual and organization performance. Interpersonal conflict can detract from individual and organization performance, lower morale and negative work attitudes, stress reactions, and self-interested behavior, because it gets to that point. Now, we're going to talk about some sources of conflict, and then I want to hear about your sources of conflict, because we're at part 2, and this is where we're going to start. Think about a funnel. We talked up here, and we're going to start getting narrowed down so we can deal with some situations that you all are actually dealing with. Is that fair enough? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, so sometimes they're just personal differences, perceptions, and expectations. There can be information deficiencies. Do you get all the accurate information you need all the time? Does it not cause a conflict? Okay. All right. Misinformation and misrepresentation, role incompatibility. Sometimes people don't really understand their roles. That's where you hear things like, hey, stay in your lane and all this type of stuff, right? And last but not least, there's environmentally induced stress, resource scarcity, and uncertainty. I don't know if this happens with you all, but around budget time a lot of times, when organizations have to justify, what happens? What do they start doing? Somebody start us off. What happens when scarcity is at looming or there's some budget cuts? What happens to organizations? What do they start trying to do? That's my question. Okay, we got somebody here, got somebody here. We got somebody up here too, so okay.
You start to compete for resources.
Start trying to compete for resources. Okay, we got two. Got two.
I had somebody share an analogy with me that I loved, and that's when the animals are at the watering hole and the watering hole starts to dry up, they start looking at each other a little differently.
They sure do. That person watched Discovery Channel. I watch a lot of Discovery Channel. and that's one of the favorite things that they like to show, because it's going to be some high drama. Okay.
For me, it's more about time. And I kind of felt that way when you were giving us the exercise with the arm wrestling. It's like, okay, ready, set, go. And it was just like, okay, fight, quick. And you're done. And it was just, okay, who won? You know, and I think that's how it is, at least with my budget time, is you have a cutoff time and here's the schedule and have it done by then. You want to do it quick.
I like it. But two things you said now, the arm wrestling exercise, it really wasn't, right? 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 It wasn't, right? But that's the way we perceived it because it was set up. It had that circumstance about it. But I like what you said about the time because the time means a big factor too, okay? All right, folks, can we keep going? All right, so there's some other things too that add on to this. Interactions among demographic groups, that can cause diversity and conflict. Some diversity many times causes conflict because people see things in different ways depending on their diverse look or what their scope is or where they're looking at it from. Policies promoting a diverse workforce, diversity programs, minorities and women on job involvement. Robert, would you mind sharing what you told me at work about and I'm putting that under minorities and women and job involvement.
Yeah, at my court, and I'm in the Washtenaw County, Michigan trial court, we're Ann Arbor. There's between department heads, supervisors, managers, anybody that's a boss, there's 14 of us. I'm the only man. And that has changed over the last, 10 years when it was the opposite. So it's evolved.
So sometimes these new diversity or new people coming to the workforce can be a source of conflict because they've got to get on the same sheet of music. The perspectives are different, okay? And those can be competing interests and it can cause that. All right, discrimination and stigmatizing groups, says there. Globalization, we're more global now than ever and we're getting more and more global, right? And last but not least, there can be cultural clashes. Yes, sir. Yep, you're up, he's up, yes, sir. Hey, listen, y'all, hold on for a second. I like the fact this man came in on the second half and he's making up for the time he missed. Let's give him a hand. Give this man a hand, give him a hand, this man a hand. Yes, sir.
That's just because I don't work in your organization. You don't have to deal with me on a daily basis. I guess I have a question at this, and we've had this conversation within our own workplace. And you use the term diversity there, and we've had the conversation at work about this because one of the common phrases is diversity and inclusion. We have found that by using inclusion as opposed to diversity, it creates a more collaborative environment as people look at this. It's not identifying the differences between the individuals. It's, okay, we all belong here. Now let's move forward. Mm-hmm. As opposed to going, I am a hyphen whomever.
Mm-hmm. You know, I like what you said. I'm going to throw my 2 cents out about that. It started off, I think, as saying you need to be more diverse. I think that's what it started off because everybody looked the same kind in these organizations. And now that that's done and people understand that, now I think it's shifted to let's include everyone. That's what I think. That's my 2 cents. But you had to get from one point to the next point for it to happen, right? And I think inclusion is a great thing because everyone needs to be included, right? But I think you had to look at what's going on now. You need to be more diverse, so we need to include everyone. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And it works in our environment because I'm one of the 3 white males in our organization.
Okay. So see there, Rich, he's go ahead.
I actually happen to work with this fine woman to my right, and by working together in a very diverse organization, we found that we're more inclusive. We have a lot more ideas that come together as opposed to just having the white male perspective coming from a professional middle class background going, okay, this is the universe, because I can safely say that is not the universe in the court in which we work.
Good stuff. Okay, now we're going to shift gears to this. All right, did I miss somebody? I'm sorry, someone else have their hand up. I was looking down. We good? Okay. What are the typical sources of conflict in your context? What I mean at court operations and management, talk at your tables about what are some things that y'all are having conflicts about. Like he was talking about how his workplace looks. What are some things y'all have been dealing with? Have that conversation. We're going to report out, and then we're going to start dealing with those things. Are there questions about that? All right, let's do it. Yes, sir.
President Will hooked you up.
Thank you,
Put that
man.
on. You're in for lunch. Anything else you want? I know. You got to
There's
go
a
with
certain-
what's being
I
discussed.
get-
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
You get it.
Yeah,
You get it.
yeah, you do.
You're
Bro.
Bob, you get
And
it.
that's so much better than static, out of the box. You don't change. You just shove it out there. Those are terrible. This, where you see what they're talking about, what buttons to push.
But it's
That's so
something,
good
though.
to do on the fly.
Yeah, but it's like you gotta, like, you know.
I know.
You go with your script, but you have to get out the script sometimes.
You do. You got to know when. Sure. Right.
I came out like, oh, you know, I'm thinking about putting. And when you say that, it's like,
Yeah. No, it's evolved.
Yeah.
It's changing.
Yeah.
That's great. Did you watch the Oscars? Talking about doing things
You know what?
on the fly.
You know what? You know what? Don't lie. Honestly, the show is great, but I don't like how can somebody get a snub, right? But we good.
Right.
And that's why I can't stand it, you know. And then okay, it's 5 movies, and well, what if there was those 5 movies, and then some movie that's off the shelf got best cinematography or something? How do you decide it's 5 and everybody latches on?
Right. No, that's
the part I don't like.
That's
That's the only part I don't like.
And I get that.
That's the only part I don't like.
But at the end, at the beginning of the second half of the show, they had a guy, I forget who it was. He came out and he rapped about everything that happened in the first half.
Wow.
Like
that
real
was awesome.
time.
I'm gonna go look
So
at
he was
that.
flexible.
I'm gonna go look
He
at that.
did it to his audience.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
That's a skill.
That is cool. That is a skill, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm gonna check that out. I'm glad you chose it. And listen, thank you for giving me.
Oh, sure. No, that was. Speak one more thing. I'll tell you. I don't know if you've read this. I love history. There's a great book called Team of Rivals.
Oh, wow. I need to read that.
It's about Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, really?
His captain. And I didn't know. I'm not much on that time. He talked about the election of that year, 1916, and all the men running against him, and different viewpoints and different constituencies. When he became president, he brought them all into his cabinet. He forced them to come together because he knew they would have different perspectives, different experiences that he would need when he was president. So he brought them together, and it worked. Here's the law.
I bet they have some of that. I haven't done those classes. Now you got me interested. I'm at the Lincoln Leadership book, and you think you're talking about team what? That sounds good. That's the cool stuff. That's the cool stuff. And stuff like this too. Thanks, man.
Together, you get folks that should be your enemies, and you bring them in, and you go out to them, and help.
Good
Yeah,
stuff,
that's
man. Good
tough.
stuff, brother. Good stuff, brother. I like it. Thank you.
Get in there time to eat your orange. Will you be done? I'll be done in half an hour. You can eat. That's good. You need the energy.
Yeah.
You need it. It's good. That's what you need. Oh, it ran out?
Yeah, I thought it was online.
Okay, I'll mention it. I'll mention it to him.
Yeah, they're both out.
Yeah, it is. I'll say something. Thank you. Hello. I'm sure it isn't your job, but both of the water jugs are empty.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know, but I can let them know. I'll
Thank
let
you.
Dawn know.
Okay, folks. Hey, folks, can we bring it in? Shh. Folks, can we bring it in, folks? Thank you, folks. Now, this should be interesting, and I know the people with the microphones will probably get their exercise now, right? Okay, we'll open up the floor. Please share with us, if you feel comfortable doing so, what are some of the conflicts or some of the sources of conflicts of where you work? Who's gonna start us off? That many people. Okay, here we go. All right.
I won't get into the nitty gritty because we talked about all sorts of like little things, but in general, consistency between either districts or counties who work together but do the same function might do it differently. So that causes conflict of whose way is best way. Also lack of information or deficient information to kind of share what's going on with staff going from the top down or all the way back up. We also talked about change as a issue of having to tell people about change, going through the change, and that also leads to relationships, which we've already talked about.
Okay, thank you. Give her a hand for getting it started. All right, folks, we need some folks. Come on, some other people from other tables. There we go, right here. Let's keep this train moving.
Okay, she brought up information and misinformation and top down. We really talked about communication as being one of the main sources of conflict, because part of it is, as a leader, my expectation is that I'm going to tell the next level down, and then they're going to tell the supervisors, and the supervisors are going to tell the line staff. And we find that you're going to have multiple flavors of the game telephone from when you're kids. So when it comes from on high and by the time it gets down to staff, it's going to totally change. And people are going to make assumptions, and they're going to fill in gaps, or they're going to mishear it. So because they're all coming with their own filters. So you try different methods. You say, okay, well, let's pull all the staff in and we'll tell them directly. But even personalities and people will hear things differently. It doesn't matter how you communicate the message, they're going to hear it differently. So that's a source of conflict, is making sure that people are getting the right message and hearing the right message.
Good stuff. Okay, come on, someone else, please. Yep, over here. Yep, go ahead.
One of the things that we talked about is unresolved issues with an employee that causes consternation amongst other employees. For example, one person is out all the time and has never been held accountable for it. And so it causes resentment amongst their coworkers. And so the importance we talked about the importance of resolving this court administrator, or what is your clerk? She is a new clerk, and she talked about how she addressed those issues early on, and it reduced conflict.
Okay, yes, back here, good, come on.
One of the things that we talked about was sometimes it may be necessary to take off your hat with your position if you're an elected official, because sometimes you may not essentially be the smartest person in the room as it relates to court operations and management. And sometimes you may have to set that aside and actually, listen to the opinions of others who are in it, that are the ones doing it, listen to their recommendations and that type of thing.
Okay, I like it. Okay, tell you what we'll do. We got another one. Good. Yeah, hey, there we go. Come on.
One of the things that we talked about was ambition, where you have people or employees that maybe they want to work their way up, but they do it in a way that's like detrimental to their ability to progress, whether they're like more too cutthroat or just burning bridges as they're going along their way. And then in like an opposite way of being confined or constrained by the workplace, saying it's like, well, you don't hold this current role, so we won't train you in those types of skills because you don't already need them with where you're at, but you might want to eventually end up in that kind of thing. And then thinking, well, if we train you, then you're going to just expect us to change your title. So just kind of having that conflict of, there are people that want to move up the right way and trying to promote themselves and, learn and get knowledge. But then there's other people that are doing it, by stepping on the backs and heads of everybody else behind them.
Wow. I would say good stuff, but that was good information. I won't say good stuff, but that was good information, right? Because stepping on people's backs. All right, so we good, folks? Here's what I want you to do, because I'm looking at our time, it's kind of getting away from us. So what I want to do is each person to think about a conflict they've had, and what we're going to do toward the end of class, we're going to revisit it and see what you could have done differently or what information you have now that you could apply to that situation then, or if it's currently going on. So I'm gonna give you 2 minutes to do this. It's gonna be kind of a quick exercise because we gotta keep moving. All right, think about a recent conflict situation at work. Jot down the following: what happened, who was involved, and what was the outcome, okay? This is where we're getting really narrow in the funnel, okay? Everybody, even if you don't jot it down, put it in your mind, okay? Because we're gonna come back and visit this and say, okay, what could we have done differently? Man, Robert.
20 minutes. That's good. That's good. Yeah, that's good. That's how it should be. Right, on the fly. What do we cut? What do we got to do? Yeah, that's good. It flew.
Because earlier, didn't it seem like... Okay.
For me, it was all because I'm hearing all this for the first time. Okay. So you know what's coming, you know, but it's like I'm gonna do like R&B and all kinds of stuff.
What do you play, brother?
I play drums.
Good drummer. I just do percussion.
Good man. And I don't know if you played out bands, played out bars and things like that. I'm finding myself getting lost in, because we played it 1,000 times. And it's like, wait, have we already done that song? We already done Midnight Hour? We done with it? Did we play that already? And you're not even thinking about it. So I'm hearing it for the first time, like I'm hearing this for the first time. I'm focused in and the time's flying by. So it's
perspective, right?
This is all news. Yep.
Okay.
So we're all hearing it for the first time. You can tell from your reaction. You're doing good.
Good. As long as they got what they need to get out of it. You guys felt like y'all did this way perfect. That's y'all's goal, right?
Right.
The goals should be the same, but it's a little different. Right?
Yes. Value for their time and money. Yeah.
Exactly. Man, this time was just like, man, God, it went fast. So we got to make the last one adjust.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I'll let you adjust.
Thank you. Okay, folks. Hey, folks, are we good, folks? Has everybody got theirs written down or at least dedicated memory? All right, let's bring it back in, folks. Let's bring it back. Let's bring it back in. Let's bring it back in. Let's bring it back in. Okay, we got it. Whew, that was hard. Okay. What I'm gonna shift gears and talk about now, it's gonna take us to where we need to be, okay? Because I was telling Robert at the time, to me, the second half just went like that. Man, I was like, what? Because I do quirky stuff. Like last night, I added some stuff, said, well, we have time, we can do this and we can do that. Wasn't the case, it went quick. Okay, here's the deal. So here's where we're gonna go on this. People have typical sources of conflict. They have styles of how they react to conflict, to what style they use when a conflict situation comes up. Here are the basic styles: forcing or competing. What does that imply? Somebody? What does that imply? Give it a mic, please.
It's the arm wrestling.
How so?
You're competing with each other, and so you're forcing your issue on the other person.
So we usually, when I have a day class, we do an assessment that shows you where your style is, but of course we don't have the time to do that. But a lot of people, these are preferred styles. Oh, I gotta do that to make this real clear. We all use those styles, but we use them at different levels of frequency, okay? That's what a preference means. Real quick, let me give you an example of preference. Everybody fold your arms. Fold your arms, everybody, fold your arms. Feel good and comfortable? All right, now fold them the other way. I hear some people giggling. I hear some people giggling. Okay, folks. That's what preferences are. You can fold your arm the other way, but your preferences do it whatever way you did it first, okay? And you can, doesn't mean you can't use these other styles, doesn't mean you don't use them, but that's what preferences are. Some of us use the forcing approach more. So, okay, you see where I'm going with that, right? And if we did an assessment, some people use maybe 2 of those more than others and so forth and so on. I just want to make that point. So let's talk about these, all right? Because we're burning up some real estate. Okay, so forcing competing is my way to the highway for the most part, okay? Avoiding, what does avoiding imply? What does avoiding imply?
Ignoring.
Come on.
Ignoring.
Ignoring the situation totally. He tries to talk to me about, hey, let's solve this issue. I'm like, all right. Then he follows me in the break room. I'm like, man, this guy won't quit following me. Then, right? That's the avoiding approach, okay? Then we've got our compromising approach. Somebody, what does that imply?
Trying to get to 50-50.
Okay, 50-50, what it implies is giving up something. Both parties have to give up something for it to go. You maybe 50-50 is cool, but if you go buy a car, you think you walked out 80-20, but I'm here to tell you it's the other way around. That's compromising, right? Okay, so then we get down to accommodating. What does accommodating imply? What does it imply? Somebody? Cool.
Giving in and following the leader.
Okay, giving in, right? Giving in, that's it in the short case, giving in. Okay, then we got collaboration. Somebody want to speak on collaboration? The C group doesn't want to speak on collaboration? Okay, I'm being silly, come on.
Just working together.
Working together, that's good enough for me. Okay, so here's what we're gonna talk about. Let's knock these down. All right, so when you're talking about the competing approach, many times your objective is to get your way. That's it. Get my way, right? Your posture is, I know what's right, do not question my judgment or authority, okay? Supporting rationale, it is better to risk causing a few hard feelings than to abandon an issue that you are committed to, okay? But here's the likely outcome when you force, now listen, these are taken to the extreme. If you do this all the time, you start being seen as a forcer, right? You collaborate all the time, you're seen as a collaborator. So to the extreme, what happens is you feel vindicated, but the other party may feel defeated and probably humiliated, okay? All right, so the avoiding approach. Objective, avoid having to deal with conflict, okay? Your posture, I'm neutral on that issue. Let me think about it. That's someone else's problem. Support and rationale, disagreement is inherently bad because it creates tension, okay? And then likely outcome, interpersonal problems don't get resolved, causing long-term frustration, manifested in a lot of ways, right? Because it never gets solved. It's still there bubbling and bubbling and bubbling. It never gets solved, okay? So let's go with compromising. Compromising, objective is reaching agreement quickly. Ooh, yeah, I got time to say this. Let me say this real quickly. I used to work for the legislator, and they're in session right now, okay, in Georgia. And the reason it says reach an agreement quickly, many times because they only have so many days, 40 days and 40 nights, as the time gets shorter, there's a lot of business they've got to take care of, right? So they've really got to start, hey, yeah, I'll vote for this if you'll vote for that, and I'll do this. Let's put this amendment on that because they only have so much time, right? And they've got to get something passed that they initially wanted to get passed, but now the time's short. Other people have opinions about it, so they have to start compromising. Does that make sense? So you can get it done quickly, and that's what that means. All right. Your posture, let's search for a solution we can both live with so we can go on with our work, right? Supporting rationale, prolonged conflicts distract people from their work and engender bitter feelings. Likely outcome, participants become conditioned to seek expedient rather than effective solutions. That can happen, okay? So now we're at accommodating. And y'all, the notes, that's whatever on the app or whatever, these on the notes, but okay. So objective is don't upset the other person. Oh, look at that. That's relational, isn't it? See where accommodating is very relational? It's about the relationship. Avoiding is like, hey, I'm just not gonna talk to you about the issue at all, right? But when we're talking about accommodating, it's more relational. All right, your posture is, how can I help you feel good about this encounter? My position isn't that important. Now, before the hair on the back of people's necks stand up, sometimes there's a good time to accommodate sometimes, right? But the point is, when you give in, typically there's a message that says my position is not as important as the other person's position. And that's all that means, okay? All right. So supporting rationale, maintaining harmonious relationships should be the top priority. Here's our relational piece again. Likely outcome, other person is likely to take advantage of you, right? If you accommodate all the time and someone needs something done, you think they may go to you or they may go to that forcer? If you accommodate all the time, they're probably going to go to the accommodator, right? All right, and then our collaborating approach, which is our last one we'll talk about. Objective is to solve the problem together. The posture is, this is my position, what's yours? I'm committed to finding the best possible solution. What do you suggest? Now, supporting rationale, both parties' positions are equally important. So at this table, if they're doing a true collaboration, everybody's opinion is equally important, okay? Hers does not weigh hers, and not weigh his. They're looking for the best solution. Hers might get totally taken off the table, and it's okay because they're searching for the best solution. You see what I mean, folks? And sometimes people mix it up with compromising, like because you're giving and stuff. They're not here to give. They're here to find the best solution. Does that make sense, folks? Okay. All right. The problem will probably be solved. Both parties are likely to be satisfied with the solution. Okay, let's see. We won't worry about that one. I'm going to go here. I started to give you all this assignment, but I'm going to go here because we're really up against the wall. What does that first bullet say? Y'all say it together on 3. 1, 2, 3. There is no one best strategy for managing conflict. So what does that imply? Somebody, what does that imply?
You have to adapt to the situation presented.
Okay, see? So you have to use them all, right? Because some of them all have purpose in certain times, right? So sometimes you've got to understand when to use them and when not to use them. Because if you are a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? So if you use one style all the time, there are different situations where it may not fit, but you may try to use it anyway, right? So to your point, somebody's point over here, right? There's issues to consider. You got to consider how important the issue is to you, relationship importance, relative power, and time constraints. You were telling me about power, right? Okay, so I'll run through a couple things. Wow, that time went quick. Okay, there's a cheat sheet that you all have. Okay, you have a cheat sheet in there, and here's kind of what the cheat sheet looks like. It gives you an outline of, and this is not like written in stone, but these are suggestions of when to use what style when you tie in issue importance, relationship importance, when you tie in relative power and time constraints. This gentleman asked me about power. So I'm going to throw one out about power. You all know I work at the University of Georgia. Okay. Now, our president, President Moorhead, if he and I are talking about something, do you think it would be smart for me to use a forcing approach? Right? That probably going to end me in the unemployment line, right? So relative power does matter. Relative power does matter in all these situations that you were talking about. That's why this scale is here to help assist you. Now, collaboration requires the best solution. However, it takes a bunch of time, folks. It takes a bunch of time to collaborate. Just think, even with this table, if they went through a true collaboration, that means they're going to hear everyone out. They're going to hear everyone. Everyone has to say, they're going to debate every issue. That takes a lot of time. Let's say this place catches on fire. I'm up here down, putting my computer up. Is that a good time to collaborate with me? So the place on fire, you walk up and say, well, Eric, let's talk about this. Your arm's on fire, the fire surrounding us. What do you think? Well, I got to put my so-and-so up. Yeah, but blah, blah, blah is happening. So there are times, folks, when you have to look at this sheet right here, and it's designed to help you say, listen, I might use this style in this situation, or this style in this situation, right? So let me see, is there another one I want to talk about? So sometimes for forcing, if something's not really, an issue is not really important to you at all, do you necessarily need to use a forcing approach? It's not going to really negatively impact the organization. Can't you accommodate on some things, right? Do you see where I'm going with this? And it's not a magic bullet. That's why it says that no one style is better than is the best style to use. Use this right here, okay? Think about situations in which the styles kind of will clash or help you better navigate in a conflict situation. I'm going to throw one more out before we go to our last little bit. Yeah, because we're right there. All right, last bit is like some of these styles kind of clash with each other. So could you imagine if I'm a forcer? I'm just throwing random examples out. I'm sitting at a table with a bunch of collaborators. What do you think's gonna happen? Give them the mic, please.
You're the one that's going to be sent off the island.
Why? Why?
Because you are not willing to work with the team.
Okay, you see where I'm going with this? Because I'm going to be forcing mine, and guess what they're going to say? We don't care what you say. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're just one of 6 people. We want to hear what such and such has to say. We want to hear what such. And I'm like, doggone it, I'm forcing now. Doggone it, I know it. And they're going to be like, no, it doesn't matter. We heard you. Now we're going to hear everybody else. So you're absolutely right. So when you're looking at these styles, folks, because we are out of time, we're looking at these styles. Think about that cheat sheet and look what they mean and start practicing ways in low-risk situations. What I mean by low-risk situations are situations that aren't just going to bring the house down. Practice these other ones that you don't find yourself practicing that much, okay, so you can get better at them. Are there questions about that? All right, want to revisit one last thing for these 4 minutes we got left in here, okay? Remember that disagreement that we talked about, that you had to come up with a disagreement? Oh, let's see where it is. All right, at your table, talk about that conflict that you talked about earlier. What was the strategy and what, if anything, you could have done differently? This is the piece, I know we only got about 3 minutes. This is the piece that you say, okay, I've been sitting in here, I actually had a conflict. From listening to what we talked about today, what would I do differently? All right, y'all have it. Go ahead, talk about it, please. You do what you need to do, okay?
Okay, when you're done, I'm just going to thank you and then remind everybody to rate us. So when you're done,
Okay.
I'll just
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Let's go. Sure.
Okay, folks. Okay, folks. Hey, folks. Hey, folks. I'm glad everybody had that second, third cup of coffee. Let me say this, listen. Take that situation back. The homework assignment will take that situation back and deal with that conflict. And after you talk about, go through these notes and things like that. I want to do a couple of things, and Robert's going to make his announcement in a second. Let's give it up to IT, please. Give it up to IT. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. Thank you. All right, give it up to our guys who decided to hold these mics and got their exercise today, please. And last but not least, give it up to yourselves. Robert, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you. Let's thank Eric one more time for a great presentation this morning. Thank you. And I want to remind you all that this is the time. Please take a moment now while it's fresh before your next session starts to go on the app and rate this app and rate this presentation, both of them, if you were in both. And a star is great, as many, 5 stars is great, but the comments are what I think the committee really needs, what you liked about it, what you got from it, and that will help them plan future sessions. So thanks for coming, and your next one starts in 15 minutes. We're all set.